point about the Haaretz article from NPR. I'll just go back to that question so I can read it properly. Alon, the Prime Minister made a very forceful comment in partnership with the Defence Minister about the falseness of that Haaretz piece. It is incorrect. It is not true. And unfortunately, the sources of disinformation have come from many different sources during this war, including, unfortunately, from Haaretz. Now, the Prime Minister, I can point you to that comment. I think he made it on Friday afternoon, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll point you to the precise words which the Prime Minister have made. But of course, it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway, that the IDF never, ever, ever directs its fire at civilians. Our war against the Hamas terror organization is against Hamas, not against Gazan civilians. Gazans are victims of Hamas as well, which is why we are freeing Gaza from Hamas to provide a better future for all the people in this region. The next comment, the next question you were asking about Evin prison. Sorry, just go back to the last question, if you could, about Evin prison in Tehran that killed. You're saying that it, yeah. Look, there's a limited amount of what I can share with you, Alon, on the Evin prison issue. The IDF has spoken about this, so I would ask you to go back to the IDF sources, which are published now. I would recommend their Telegram feed, which is particularly effective, where the rationale the rationale of blowing the gates off the Evin prison, which is where all of the political prisoners or anyone that speaks out against the Iranian regime, that's where they're sent, where they unfortunately are incarcerated against their will, or where they are disappeared as well, or murdered and tortured. This is everyone in Iran knows this fact about the Evin prison. Our objective was to blow the gates off that prison. And if you want further information, you can go to the IDF regarding that site, that issue. Okay, I think this is Jean. Next question from Jean Malta from PBS National TV. Okay, you're saying, your question to me, it says, it's atrocious what happened on October 7th, but what do you comment on the systematic killing of, and you give a Hamas figure of 50,000 civilians in Gaza by the Israeli army? Also, since US journalists are, since US journalists allowed inside Gaza, and hence we can't independently verify what's happening at aid distribution sites, what video footage do you have of Hamas fighters shooting at Gazan civilians, please? Okay, Jean, thank you for that question. So you start off by condemning the Hamas atrocities. I mean, I'm not sure what my reaction to that is. I mean, that proves you're a human being. Congratulations. And the next part about you saying about over 50,000 civilians. Now, this is a Hamas figure. It is a Hamas figure, whether it's from the Gazan Health Ministry, which is Hamas, or whether it's from the civil guard of Gaza, which is Hamas. I can't imagine the figures being shared from any other terrorist organization being taken in that way. And I would remind you as well that Hamas does not differentiate between its own terrorists and civilians. They do not differentiate. Now, the world experts on civilian warfare, on warfare in urban areas, for instance, John Spencer, who is a world-renowned expert on urban warfare, he has said that no other country has done more to limit civilian casualties than the IDF. Okay, so that figure you're sharing with me, firstly, it's released by Hamas. Now, let's just break this down for a second. Hamas are a terrorist organization. Whoever says anything which could be construed against Hamas inside Gaza, and they release some information to the outside world, they are immediately killed. Immediately, they are killed. Immediately, anyone that says anything negative about Hamas is murdered. That is why that all of this evidence, pseudo evidence that you are sharing with me, These are Hamas cleared figures. Firstly, they do not differentiate between terrorist and civilian. And all the experts in urban warfare have said that Israel, no other country has got it as low as 1-to-1. I would remind you that other armies in Mosul, in Iraq or in other places have much higher civilian casualty figures, 1-to-7. Now, when it comes to footage, that we have released footage of Hamas shooting their own people. We have released footage. There was been multiple incidents, and those footage is available on the IDF website. I recommend their Telegram feed, but there are many examples, unfortunately, of Hamas murdering its own citizens. In this briefing, I shared with you that Hamas does not want the new aid distribution service to work for two reasons. Number one, we're separating the two things, aid distribution and Hamas. Hamas were using the aid, stealing the aid. They were charging their own people, Jean, charging their own people. This is a right for Gazans who need this aid to get it for free. It is extortion to charge Gazans who should get this aid for free, which Israel has facilitated to get into Gaza, which other countries have generously donated. It is extortion to charge their own people. And secondly, this is their key way of staying in power, which is why as this conflict continues, especially at this point, Hamas will come up with more and more outrageous claims, like these, this tired phrase, which is being repeated, unfortunately, by too many in the media, which says, people queuing up for food were attacked. The IDF never attacks people queuing up for food. Hamas, on the other hand, does, because they want to hold on to power. And, for Hamas, Gazans are expendable. They say this very, very clearly. The one thing we learned here in Israel is when our enemies say things, we believe them. They have said very, very clearly that their own people are expendable towards their own jihadist aims. Okay, you've asked the same question twice. I think this is the last question from Howard Goller from Reuters. Israeli government has been providing funds for GHF operations. Are these for security operations or for the actual aid that GHF is distributing in Gaza? Can we please get a statement on what funds the Israeli government has allocated GHF, for what purposes? Have those funds been transferred to GHF or not? Hello, Howard Goller from Reuters. I don't have any information on that. I shared with you the situation on aid. It is the Hamas terror organization which is operating to prevent direct distribution of food to the civilian areas, civilian population areas. It starves its own people. It systematically endangers them. And when Hamas as they have recently taken control of some of the humanitarian aid that enters northern Gaza, our political echelon, the government, have instructed the IDF to come up with an action plan against Hamas' despicable behavior. Now, this GHF is a separate organization. It is supported by our allies in the US. It is not an Israeli organization. And if you want further information about GHF, then I recommend Howard Goller from Reuters that you contact GHF directly. I saw an interview with GHF on Sky News, I believe, yesterday, over the last couple of days, and I would point you to that, which may answer your questions. Okay, my friends, that is that the last question? That is the last question. Is there another one here? Yeah, let's just go back to that last question. Thank you for your detailed answer. This is from Jean Malta from PBS. Why don't you let us journalists view the information for ourselves? Okay. With GHF and IDF. Okay, so the IDF does take journalists into Gaza to see things for themselves. But I would remind you, as journalists who have served, I'm talking about Gazans, I'm talking about external journalists that have served in Gaza and reported from Gaza, they state this in a crystal clear manner, that anyone that reports anything hostile to the Hamas regime is immediately sanctioned. Either they are chucked out or they are not allowed to release that information. So this idea that while Hamas is in power in Gaza, that journalists will be able to run around Gaza and share with us what's going on there, that is a fallacy. Hamas murders anyone that says anything negative about the Hamas terrorist organization. Jean, that is a fact. Okay, let's not be naive that in some way that it is anything other than that fact. And people that have worked with the AP have shared this in a crystal clear manner. If you are an external journalist and you say anything negative, which can be construed as negative, about the Hamas terrorist organization, you are threatened, and more likely you're either ejected or you are killed. Okay, so that is the last question today. Thank you for joining us. We'll have another briefing again shortly. In the meantime, you can contact us for interviews or for any other questions you may have in the usual way. Please do stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Recording stopped.